So tell me, do you think men and women are equal?
Preeti, I am going to hurt the feminists out there. I'm going to displease them. Dharma Productions, Karan Johar, completely involved. As if they see what you're doing in your bedroom.
Correct.
Or your living area or your bathroom.
Yeah,
You've said it. You've said it, yeah.
What's your opinion on religion versus spirituality?
Spirituality, yeah. You know, I not only grew up with the Disney princess syndrome, I have to be honest, till I got married, I thought I was the ultimate princess.
As a woman and, women bringing each other down rather than helping us and supporting us. Someone used to say, compliment me. I just don't know how to take a compliment.
You've said that is the one issue. That's my Achilles heel. Dare to judge that one person. Karma comes back to bite you very quickly.
Hi, welcome back to Reset Your Life. As you know, we have a show with all change makers. That's the only thing which is constant in life. People who are accepting change, who accept challenges and take chances. As a part of our journey, we are meeting interesting people in all ages and all stages of life. People who can inspire us and show us the way. We can learn from them. Today's guest is Neeva Jain. She's not only a good friend of mine for the last 2 decades, she's also my spiritual partner. She's also a very well-known, renowned lifestyle journalist. Currently, she is the Chief Public Relations Officer of Fashion Entrepreneurship Fund. Let's hear more about this from Neeva herself. Hi Neeva, welcome to the show.
Hello Preeti, good to see you. And let me just add in my little 2 bits. So proud of you, girl. Keep shining. Keep inspiring all of us to reach new dimensions and new levels in our life. Your journey has been phenomenal, and I think I've been blessed, lucky and privileged to be a close part of it over the years.
You know, they say in life, surround yourself with people who uplift you, who believe in your dreams and help you achieve them. So this is what I mean when I have friends like Neeva, who I myself have been inspired with and has helped me in all aspects of my life, be it my spiritual life.
Yes,
I mean, I'll never forget 2008 when I had to take some spiritual advice from you, whether it's career advice, whether it's fashion advice, whether it's lifestyle advice, and whether how to be a good mother. So it's all parts of our life. I'd like to start today, Neeva, by talking about your professional journey. Tell me a little bit more. I mean, we all know you, Neeva Jain, as the person, and everybody feels things come very easy. But I want to hear from you, how has it been and what's been your professional journey?
See, Preeti, I think it all stems for me from the fact that I was somebody who grew up in the States, and I finished college and came back and had a very, very traditional, old school arranged marriage with my husband Rahul Jain, who I'd just met a few times before saying yes. And then I went back to America and I came back for the wedding. So I think both of us actually represent the quintessential old school, old world, traditional setup. But in that same respect and aspect, I would have to say that that's probably why I've reached where I've reached in my professional career. Exactly like you said, life is constantly changing. It's not stagnant. It's not stable. We can give it our best shot for it, but we're always going to be having the challenges, the ups and downs.
Yes,
and the curves.
So well said.
Exactly. It's never going to be that easy.
So Neeva, like you said, the quintessential, the typical Gujarati good girl who got married very young, I can imagine. And didn't you face questions from, especially the women who you're surrounded with, family members? Not that I'm saying people mean bad for us. That tumhe zarurat kya hai? What's wrong with you? And I faced a lot of that. I mean, I remember whenever I used to start a project, people, are now she's doing charity. Acha chalo, iska shauk hai. Ye shauk khatam ho jayega. So did you face that kind of?
See, I faced the prejudice, which was a bit different because I married into a conservative Jain family, and I was bored sitting at home. I was bored. I'll never forget, it's a funny story. I would be spending twice a week at the Oberoi Beauty Parlor, which was the most popular parlor at that time, Oberoi Hotel, New Delhi. And I would be getting my hair done, going home, sitting. So I knew I didn't want to carve that path for myself, but I didn't know how to do anything else because I was newly married. And then it was a very interesting share. My father-in-law called up his cousin, who was Ashok Jain. He was the owner of Times of India. And he said, she has an interest in journalism. Usko kuch kara do. So I did the Times School of Journalism course. And I think I found my passion. Immediately after that, I got actually swept into Economic Times. I came out with a lot of front page articles. I came out with a lot of cool stuff in my journalist aspect. But exactly what you're saying there, the women couldn't handle it. Like, why is she here? Why is she coming and doing a profession which is predominantly middle class or upper middle class in terms of the salary you're getting? So why she's taking the place of somebody who could be a lot more needy.
Correct.
So there were those barriers and those hitches for
so
sure.
not only from people in our personal life, but also people in our profession who would undermine us. कि इसकी तो ज़रूरत नहीं है.
Absolutely.
I mean, she's just doing it. She doesn't need it like the way. So it's not. So the whole thought process in those days was it was need based.
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
It was need-based.
For a woman to work
Yes,
20 years ago
yes.
was a need-based.
It was not this concept of somebody wanting to do it
Correct.
out of an inspired, and
cause or
and,
desire.
Either she was bored or she needs to work for the family.
Ex-
कैसा लगेगा, लोग क्या बोलेंगे,
Beautiful.
was a very big thing in those
There
days.
were no three other reasons. Those
Right.
were, it was a left and right wing thought process. There was no middle ground. You said
and
it.
I also feel like even not only that, you also would have faced challenges from people at work who would undermine who would not look at you. We have a tendency ourselves also to put people in boxes, to label people. Oh, she's this spoiled brat, she's this one from this one, she's this one's husband, she's the wife, this one's daughter. Oh, she has it very easy. But what are her talents? So did you have to really prove yourself a little bit more than you felt than anybody else for people to take you seriously?
I think you've hit the nail on the head in that, Preeti, and I think it still hasn't changed. Fortunately or unfortunately, God has been very kind to us. We're blessed with good looks, blessed with privileged backgrounds, blessed with the ability to actually go out there and try and carve a niche for yourself.
Right.
Definitely most women cannot handle it, because I still think we as women are not supporting each other enough, not uplifting each other enough, and not ensuring that our race is actually taking center stage. We're too busy bringing each other down. And I'm talking in a generic manner. I'm not talking in a specific case.
Right.
So definitely that was, really, really tough for me at that time, definitely.
I feel it's beautiful how you've touched on that topic, because this talk and what we're having today is a message I want to send out to a lot of women, that how we can be a support for each other, how we can be examples for each other. We don't need to compete with each other. We don't need to put the other person down. I learn from her on a daily basis, and that's the message we want to get across with something like this.
I think it's imperative, Preeti.
Right.
I don't think it's a question of we must. And we must be that change that we want to see about for our women race, especially your daughter, my daughter, all the young girls of next gen around.
At one point, as we spoke about it, Neeva and me, that it was either a financial need, or she's bored, or isne pastime se shuru kara hai. That's how it started. But these days, being financially independent is so important.
Yes.
Not only for your self-worth, I think for many other reasons. A woman to be well aware and survive in today's environment is very important.
It's crucial.
So I guess for us, for our children, for anyone who's watching this, it doesn't matter where you come from, which background you come from. It is an imperative part of our journey.
Correct.
And it's disservice if you've not followed your path.
Yeah.
So tell me something more about what you're working on now, Neeva.
So right now, it's been really very fascinating the way it's all just kind of unfolded. I joined this new venture fund a few months ago called India Fashion Fund. Why I'm very excited about this is I think it's going to be about leaving footprints of impact and actually being able to help guide and be there for all these youngsters out there. It's a cross between, in a very loose manner, between Apprentice and Shark Tank. The point of this is where we have over 100,000 applicants plus applying with the next great big idea in the realm of fashion and lifestyle. Is differentiating is that it's got Dharma Productions, Karan Johar completely involved, and we've got a whole host of top-notch Bollywood people who have joined hands because they believe in the project. They believe in the mission, and it's a lot about giving back. So I'm very, very excited to be a part of this startup. And I just feel it's really the almighty blessings. And it has a lot to do with my meditation and healing that this has come into my life. I always attribute that.
Beautiful. I totally agree with you. Today is the day for entrepreneurship. Miracles happen.
Yes.
There are wonderful
Beautiful.
opportunities.
Yeah.
Programs like y'all and people like y'all who want to offer the same to others.
Correct. Give back, yes.
Is a beautiful way forward. And talking about spirituality. So, what has been your journey in spirituality? What's your opinion on religion versus spirituality?
Spirituality, yeah. So I like to go back a little in time. I think life circumstances, the way life unfolded for me really got me onto a deep spiritual path at a much younger age than probably anybody else. I would like to give the example once again to a lady who really, really impacted me. She was the late Neeva Jain of the Times of India group. At that time, you had Sadhguru, you had Sri Sri, and you had a host of other gurus. When I met her at the first session that I attended of Sadhguru, or maybe it was Sri Sri, I don't remember, she told me, she said something very profound. She said, "Beta, aap log to alag-alag kism ki restaurants jaate ho, and you want to taste different food every day."
Guru shopping.
She said, yeah. So she said, for me, it's about gurus. I like the different flavors. I like the different essence. I like the different learnings that I get from different gurus. So that really impacted me. And I would say for my meditative journey, I owe a lot of gratitude to Sadhguru. I started doing his Shunya meditation 22, 23, 24 years ago. And that was a game changer for me. Shunya is a form of Vipassana meditation twice a day, very similar to that. And I have to add in, Indu Taiji was very clear. She said, if you are on a meditative path, never give up Shunya. My journey has been no looking back on my meditative realm since
When
then.
you speak about Isha and Sadhguru, I remember what Indu Jain might have done for you, you did for me.
Yeah,
So we come
can you
across, I think in
imagine?
our life, we face various tsunamis, as I call it.
Challenges, hurdles,
And,
roadblocks.
all of us, being
Correct.
women, men, I
Yeah.
don't want to be gender specific, but we
Correct,
all
correct,
face
yeah.
different levels of challenges.
Yeah.
And to have a friend or somebody who can guide you.
Yeah.
I remember there was a point when I used to scoff on this whole aspect of,
Yeah.
because too much of tam jham, as they call it.
Correct,
People
correct, yeah.
tend to cover it all
loosely.
up.
It's
Yes.
used very loosely.
And I was very upset once, and we all have weird life circumstances, as I call it. And first thing Neeva said is, go to the ashram, go to Sadhguru's
Sadhguru's
ashram.
ashram,
And that was 2007 or something. I still remember, and do a course. And that was quite an eye opener for me. And after that, of course, there's so many different programs we've
Experienced,
been to,
yes.
It's not that we've also been to these spiritual journeys together.
Correct,
To the various
yeah.
mandirs,
temples, the
Kamakya
mandirs,
Devi,
Kamakya. Oh yes, we've done actually all the Baglamukhi peeths together,
Yes,
Preeti.
you know.
From a Kamakya to a Pitambar Mai,
Yeah.
Jai Jai Jai. We've actually experienced
So we've
that
enjoyed
together.
this,
Yeah.
whether it's not just you have friends who are together, not just
Yeah.
partying together and
Beautiful.
socializing together.
Beautiful.
It's when you're with each other through
Yeah.
your thick and thin and through all your journey. And basically, I remember going to Kamakya Devi with you.
Yes,
And
yes.
we went more than once.
Yes,
And
yes.
Baglamukhi Devi ji also we went
Correct,
to.
we
And,
did the Pitambar
I think
Mai,
we
yeah.
also went to the other one. We also went to Shila Devi in Jaipur.
Yes, we've done Shila
Of course,
Devi,
of course.
Yes.
So I've shared a lot of experiences with Neeva. We are all searching in this life. We're all seeking and we're all learning as we are growing. But one thing is there. That one common thread is the faith
The faith, yeah.
and
Beautiful.
courage. And how do you keep it real, Neeva?
I think, Preeti, in the world we live in today, it cannot be more superficial, it cannot be more fake, it cannot be more FOMO. Whether you want to talk about a Delhi, a Bombay, or the smaller tier cities, I think the way to keep yourself grounded, authentic, and true to yourself is through your spiritual practices, through your meditative practices. I think the connect you and I have shared, even in your darkest times and my toughest times, has been that component of spirituality, of having a lot of respect for each other, by each other, and with each other. And also, I think very important for next gen is really develop around you a coterie of real, authentic, uplifting people
That is
who
so
have your
well said,
back.
yeah, yeah.
I'm going to use a very typical American euphemism. You've got to have each other's back. Because if you don't have each other's back, you're as fake as it comes. That's very important.
Very well said. You have to surround yourself with authentic people. And that's where it's quantity over quality.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
On
sorry,
one
sorry.
hand.
Quality over quantity.
Sorry,
is what
quality. Yes,
saying.
I'm sorry. I got you. I
Yes,
knew
yes,
what you
yes.
were thinking. Even
Yeah.
if you have 5 people on this one hand and you can call them your own,
You see,
you're
here,
blessed.
I think in our journeys, there is a tendency of getting lost. Lost in people's opinions, lost with people's
The
voices,
judgments, exactly.
judgments. And where do you start deciphering and listening to that voice? And I think in your journey and in my journey, the common aspect is spirituality, where this was not something which was taught to us. It's new now.
Yeah.
Now all this spirituality, self-love, self-awareness
Yeah.
is something which was unheard
Self-development,
of.
exactly.
It was
Correct.
unheard
Yeah,
of
yeah,
at
you-
that time, and
you just followed the path
And
that was dealt
I think
to
it
you.
was just that when our daughters used to very happy
Yeah.
about that, revolt against
Correct, correct. Yeah.
things which
And
we never had a
aspects,
voice
correct,
about,
correct,
and they
correct,
just
yeah.
didn't want to follow that particular path, and where we learn to adjust ourselves.
Correct.
We learn to adjust, and it's our spirituality, our thought process, where we contemplated and thought about it and said, we don't want to fit into this mold,
Yeah.
right? So how
That's
do
beautifully
you,
stated,
how do you, relate to this, that growth is a conscious decision?
Growth, definitely beautifully stated, is a conscious decision. I like to always define myself that I am constant work in progress.
Right.
I could have had the shittiest day. I go to sleep, I wake up, and I'm like, okay, you're starting from ground zero. Just pick yourself up and get on with it. So I think it's also a question of mindfulness that comes in.
Right.
I think if Gen Next can turn around and say, I've got to be more aware, I've got to be more conscious, I have to be more giving back. I want to add in this point to you because everything you've said, I resonated so beautifully, of course, because you're a very old dear friend of mine. But more so, I want to say, I was sharing with my colleagues at work, they're half my age, the other day. I said, I'm going to share a new concept with you. It's called brownie points. And I like to say it's actually brownie points from the universe. If you can wake up at least a couple of days a week and say, I'm going to do these random acts of kindness, or earn brownie points from the universe through your random acts of kindness, you would be shocked as to what comes back to you tenfold. And I think if Gen Next can actually incorporate that into their lives of random acts of kindness, they're going to shoot themselves to nirvana.
I feel, Neeva, more than Gen X, I think for us also it's a daily challenge. It's not like you said, it's an ongoing process, learning. It's not like it's all set for you. Look
Not
at
at
you.
all.
You
Life
started-
isn't.
You've gotten into a new project altogether.
At this late stage in my life,
I wouldn't-
I'm going to add that
Yeah,
in.
you
It's
know.
not easy.
I wouldn't say late stage in life, Neeva. I think that's another myth we carry around in our minds.
True. As women, we do.
Age is just something.
It's a
you have-
barrier.
It's a barrier in your mind. I mean, most of the famous people started their careers at 40, at 50, and so on and so forth. I remember Ram Jethmalani is a famous lawyer. He was practicing law till I think he died when he was 92 or something.
90 plus. It's a great
And
example.
I
You
remember
said it.
once
And
I
his
was-
energy.
Yeah, I was sitting in a
Yeah.
conference with him, and he still played badminton, and I couldn't help laughing. But you get inspired with these kind of people. It's about staying. This is what this is about: staying young, learning, and growing more.
Yeah.
So tell me.
Well, if I can interject, I
Yeah,
love
sure.
what you just said, Preeti. Find people to inspire you. Well stated. Whether it's the same sex, whether it's the opposite sex. Like, to me, what you're doing with this show is actually galvanizing a movement for all Gen Next to say, listen, go for it. This life is the only life we know that we got. And make the most of it. So it's fantastic what you're
I
saying.
don't think the next gen. I think it's more for everybody. It's
Okay,
more for
nice,
anyone
yeah.
who's not had a voice.
Yeah,
I just
beautiful.
feel it's, as I said, I'm going to repeat, it's a disservice if you live this life without following your blueprint.
Wow.
And I don't want anyone to get discouraged. The other day I went for a badminton game, and there was this lady. I think she'd never played the game, and she said, I've held a racket for the first time in my life. and I don't know how to hit hard shots, and I don't want to hear. I said the very fact that you've come to play a game. She was 50
Yeah.
plus, and it was quite interesting to see. So it's for anyone and everything. There is nothing you can't do.
Yeah.
I think there's no passion you can't do. And I think for people like us who live in this very judgmental society, there's always someone watching you. There's always someone judging you.
Beautifully stated. Commenting on you.
Commenting on you. You're never
As
going
if they see what
Yeah.
you're doing in your bedroom,
Correct.
or your living area, or your bathroom.
Yeah,
You've said it. You've
the
said it.
thing
Yeah.
is, everyone is going to always have an opinion on you.
Yeah.
So we need to turn out all those sounds. from
Tune it
our
out.
life. Tune it all out.
Tune
We
it
have
out.
to just tune it all
You
out
said it.
and follow our passions.
Yeah.
So
Well, you've said it fabulously, and if I may also interject, when you are on a spiritual path, a healing path, a meditative path, you really realize very consistently that you cannot afford to judge. Because you dare to judge that one person, karma comes back to bite you very quickly. So I think that's another advantage of the meditative healing path. You don't judge.
So tell me, living in this society, and we've been brought up, we've been conditioned like this.
Yeah.
I don't speak against it. We all came from families,
Correct, yeah.
where our parents were professional and
Correct, yeah.
made an effort to educate us. But of course, marriage was at a certain age.
Yeah.
Children were at a certain age.
Nothing has changed.
And yeah, it
Nothing has
hasn't
changed. Correct.
And it was at a certain age, and you become people pleasers.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you balance between what's important to and you maintain that balance, because you can't live against society also.
Correct.
You have to
correct,
live in
yeah.
that same society. But at the same time you want to value your own dreams. And how do you keep that? How do you keep your essence?
Yeah, I think you said something very beautifully, Preeti. I said, let me take it one step further. As parents, as mothers, with your children, the biggest service you can do, whether it's a son or daughter, and if you're getting your daughter married, you choose progressive families if you have a choice. You go for families which are modern, which are going to allow your daughter to retain the essence of who she is and what she's all about. If you have sons, you want to bring in girls that can turn around and be allowed to be themselves, to be free. So I think it comes into the aspect of affect that change as women of what we are wanting to see around us and wanting to be. I think it's very important what you just stated.
No, but how did you tune out all these voices? How do you maintain? Like today, for example,
Yeah.
You have so many obligations. Obligation as a mother, obligation as a wife, obligation as a daughter-in-law. It doesn't
Yeah.
end for a woman, does it?
It doesn't end for, it's too much.
Is your
It's
career-
overwhelming.
I mean, it's not, you're not paying the bills. You're not doing
That's always,
this.
yeah, that doesn't change.
So, but at the same time, we want to maintain that peace at home.
Yeah. Yes, beautifully
So how
stated.
do you manage that balance where you can follow your own dreams and at the same time
Fulfill every responsibility as an Indian
Right.
woman.
Yeah.
I think you've said it beautifully and very, very correctly, Preeti. I have to give the credit somewhere along the line to my husband. The buck
Yes.
stops there. I have had a husband who, when I got married, would have been shocked that his wife would ever work, let alone be a journalist, let alone be, doing so many different ventures and so many different projects in her entire married life. Today, he's my biggest supporter and benefactor. So I think that's very important, to have a spouse who supports you. I think what's also very important is to be able to balance the yin and yang. Definitely incorporate at your young age, if possible, spirituality, meditative practices, healing practices. So I think that combination enables you to actually shine and blossom in a very, very beautiful, systematic equilibrium. I would have to say, I think that really
I
is
completely
important.
agree with you when it comes to our families, and I think it's a good example for everybody out there to hear this. Of course, first, people are uncomfortable with your decisions.
Yeah, of course, of
Okay,
course.
and you have to give them that, because you have to make people realize how serious you're about all this. Because everybody is well-meaning at the end
Correct.
of the day. We can't have a defensive attitude and have a
Correct,
negative
yeah.
attitude about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's
And
brings upon more negativity.
Right. So it starts
Exactly.
with them being uncomfortable, seeing you in a different, people watching you grow
Yeah.
is not something because growth requires challenges, and people want to give us, that comfort, and then it gets converted into acceptance.
Correct,
And then it is
correct, yeah.
endorsement.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
support.
correct. Actually, you said it.
So I feel for
that's a
all
trajectory.
all
Yes.
the women out there, and if you feel that, oh, what will my mother-in-law say, or what will my father-in-law say, or my husband, or my children, and all that, you are going to have endorsement by the end of it.
Yeah, you're going to have to stay in the groove, in the grind to get that
Right.
endorsement, because at the end of the day, we are Indian women. We're proud of the Indian womanhood that we possess. But yes, we are conditioned to accepting the reality that we need the endorsement.
Right.
You've used a very powerful word.
Yeah.
And the endorsement is with the family nexus.
Right.
So you got to work on it. You got to get it. But it does come.
Yeah.
It does come. It takes time. It may not be that you get the support immediately, but why should you give up?
Yeah.
Because like you said, this is life. Life's journey is long. It's challenging. It's complicated. But it's how we go to sleep each night and pick ourselves up each morning. That defines
Very
us.
well said. So, Neeva, tell me something. Did you also grow up with the Disney princess syndrome? Did you think life was that love story?
I not only grew up with the Disney princess syndrome, I have to be honest, till I got married, I thought I was the ultimate princess. From my parents to all my extended relatives, I was called Sasu. It was my pet name. And it was just Sasu this, Sasu that. And then you get married into an Indian household and you're the daughter-in-law. It's almost like you're thrown to the wolves because you are not the daughter. So yes, love, I mean, I'm a little jaded on love. I think it's an overrated, I'm very jaded,
Yeah.
overrated, overused, easily used and misused.
Yeah.
I think it's just about a lot of it today for me in this stage in life is empathy, compassion, loving your staff, loving your family members, loving the people that you work with, loving your trainer at the gym. I think that's kind of what I consider love to be.
So, what about having a soulmate?
I think soulmates, Preeti, can be in so many varied forms. Like I feel a lot of my girlfriends are huge soulmates of mine.
I agree with you. Your children,
Your children, yeah. Like I feel my son is a huge soulmate of mine as we go through the ups and downs of bonds and relationships. My daughter, having gotten married, having had a baby, is somebody who I'm connecting with beautifully at this stage. I have to add in, I love her mother, and I love her mother-in-law. Like I consider her to be this angel soul in my life. So I think it's a term that we can apply to everybody and anybody around us who we feel close to.
Tell me something. Do you feel, I felt we had a tendency to idealize our partners,
Yeah.
to put them on a pedestal. And I think younger people these days have a different approach. They're more realistic.
They're very realistic.
They're much more realistic.
You've said
and,
it. There's not much idealism left in the
there
world
was-
we live
yeah,
in. Yeah,
and because it's better to be realistic.
Absolutely.
And, rather
Fantastic.
than, put somebody on a pedestal
Then
and
get
be
hurt
jaded by the end.
and then get disappointed
and
you
hurt.
get cynical.
Right.
Beautifully stated, yeah.
I'll tell you something. We grew up at a time where we thought about life. You thought you were the princess, and this is the
Yeah.
perfect story, but
Correct.
it's not that.
It's not that.
And a lot of women I've spoken to on this program only, younger girls also,
Yeah.
and people of all ages now are much more aware of this aspect.
Correct.
And they speak about love like the way you are speaking about it right now.
Yeah.
So we've actually grown up with less exposure, I would
Correct.
say.
Absolutely. Our
And
exposure
for
was very
us,
limited.
It has been
very myopic.
getting exposure along the way.
Correct.
With our
To
experiences.
the hard knocks of life.
And then trying to maintain our feminine energy.
Yeah, your composure, feminine energy, your individuality.
Right.
I think it's exactly like you said. It's just about life, and I think we can be chameleons also.
Yeah.
We're allowed to be chameleons, and we can change.
We can change.
Adapt, adjust over
Right.
each new experience in our life, a new episode in our life.
I just feel that if we haven't changed, what's the point of our life experiences? I mean,
Existence.
You and me
Fabulous.
had a conversation 5 years
Yeah.
ago, and we were dead sure about certain things. And if we haven't changed our point of view, what is this growth all about? What is this journey all about?
You've said it beautifully, Preeti, because if we haven't changed, then we haven't impacted. If we haven't impacted, what are we? Like, we're just a waste of space on this earth.
Right.
So I think it's very, very important to be dynamic and completely changing constantly.
Also, I feel, there was a beautiful quote which I think you mentioned to me the other day about women. Can you just repeat that one?
Oh yeah, I think what is phenomenal is as women, if we affect the change of not only ourselves, but also those all around us, we can be a much better planet.
Yeah, I
We can
completely
be
agree.
much better humans.
Right. Now, because see what happens is as a woman and, women bringing each other down
No,
rather than helping us and
exactly.
supporting us. I know how it goes. I mean, when we start a new project and you have women around us and who'll be like sneering and criticizing
And sniggering.
and which is fine because that's just the way society is, and I've learned to accept it.
Yeah.
I mean, why is she blogging and why is she क्या बोल रही है, क्या ज़रूरत
Well,
है?
her Instagram and who does she think she
Yeah, I
is,
mean,
and
why she
she's
should just be behind closed doors.
exactly.
I mean,
That's
why
a
the hell
typical.
does she want to get out? I mean,
Yeah, exactly, and expose herself so.
And at this point of time, it's even more empowering when we are doing things, not to be arrogant, from a place of no greed,
Yeah.
of no wants,
Beautiful.
but just from your self motivation.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the very people I've seen in every other project, and I'm sure you've seen the same thing when you started with Hello, when
Correct,
you were in
yeah.
Indian Express.
Correct,
Every
yeah.
other person who, where are you, Neeva? Oh, I'm busy in Z. I'm
Yeah.
busy in my appointments. Okay, then I'll come. Every other person saw this journey,
Yeah.
and then they saw, oh my God, she's grown in it.
Yeah.
Then they appreciated it.
Yeah.
So that's an example for themselves also, and I feel this is why we also play a major role. It's we should pat ourselves on the back for that.
That's another thing you've actually described that so well. Preeti, we never give ourselves enough credit. We as women are not brought up or taught to turn around and look at ourselves and say, hey, wow, look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, wow, I think you're super cool. I think you're really neat. But we don't do that.
No.
Because we think it's not right to be, on the band of self-promotion and self-confidence to that level. And it's a fact.
You know, it's really funny because whenever someone used to say, compliment me, I just don't know how to take a compliment.
You've said that is the one issue. That's my
You
Achilles
too.
heel. I cannot take a compliment in any
Right.
which way.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I remember, if anybody complimented me, I was very uncomfortable with it. And
You're right, we're uncomfortable.
And now I have
Yeah.
learned, finally, I would say finally,
Yeah.
I have learned to compliment my own self also.
After everything you've gone through, girl, thank you for that one.
I would say that's why now I'm so happy to see the way Neeva is receiving her compliments.
Correct.
know?
We have to, yeah.
So tell me, do you think men and women are equal?
Preeti, I am going to hurt the feminists out there. I'm going to displease them. And I am a woman about women, for women, and with women. But we live in a damn misogynistic world. Nothing has changed. For women over the years, we are taking tiny steps, but there's a lot that pulls us back. And it is a predominantly misogynistic male world.
I mean, I agree with you. I heard Neena Gupta say it in an interview that the day men produce children, then we can say they are
Absolutely. Well stated.
Equal. I feel we are both different. We are meant to be different. But in today's world, women have to be out there in places which is a man's world.
Correct.
Okay, it is a man's world, and we have to maintain our feminine energy at the same time, face these challenges and deal with things like anyone would do.
Correct.
Right?
Correct, yeah.
So tell me something, Neeva, what was the turning point in your life? If you can say something,
Preeti, I think one of the most defining turning points in my life was when I got into the Wayne Dwyer, Louise Hay, Abraham Hicks New Age energy healing modules, philosophies, along with my famous healer, a lady called Shalin Kental Karana. We conceptualized, we put healing workshops together. And we actually impacted and changed people's lives. If they were willing to experiment, because it is a taboo, going to a psychologist is a taboo, to turn around and say you want, healing, you need healing means there's something wrong with you. What's wrong? Is it to do with her husband? Is it to do with her in-laws? Is it to do with her children? So that was a huge bridge we had to cross, that there is nothing wrong with experimenting in healing. And I think the most defining turning point was during the second round of COVID, prior to that, 5-8 years, there were some strong healing groups I'm part of. But during the second round of COVID, when you're hearing of thousands and thousands of people dying on a daily basis, and you're sitting at home helpless, you may not be a frontline worker, but we were sending out healing the whole day. And I think that really changed me internally and made me realize that you just got to do a lot of give back to the world out there because it's required.
So, Neeva, very interesting question. What is the advice you would give yourself 20 years ago?
Wow, that's profound. That's deep. I think if I had to rewind my life and look at the 20 years younger me, I think, once again, I may not be pleasing the feminists or the women, a lot of women out there. I would have worked towards being a far better wife, a far more supportive wife, because I lived in a very heavy-duty joint family. So I wish I'd been a better wife, more supportive wife, a wife who was more focused on her husband and for her husband than I was, because I was too busy trying to work and, work and make it for myself. And it being a lot more about myself in my career in journalism, in print as well as electronic media. I think that would have been.
It's funny you say that because I think you're still being very hard on yourself.
Yeah, I tend to.
I think you should give yourself a pat on the back for being an amazing person to be with, wife, mother, daughter, and everybody around you would say that, even all of us, we enjoy spending time with you and you give so much. And, you've just not limited yourself to that bubble, which most of us do, me, mine,
Yeah,
It's not about me, mine. You've spread yourself across, and that's just so wonderful. I would say no. Even though you have the right. 20 years ago, Neeva, no, you were a fabulous, I've seen you, you're a fabulous wife, you're a fabulous mother. And more than that, you've come a long way in your career also. Yeah. Any words of wisdom for people?
I'd like to impart some words of wisdom with my own life experiences. I feel just be true to yourself. Be authentic to yourself. And exactly what you said, don't be so harsh on yourself. Pat your back.
So that means you agree you're still being harsh on yourself.
I am. That is one of the Achilles heels
As women, we live with a lot of guilt.
It's always, and sometimes it's self-inflicted and it's imaginary guilt, which doesn't exist, but we live with it.
It's okay. That's okay too. Yeah. Like so I heard something from Sadhguru today, which I posted, which said that if you have a lot of love in your heart, you never feel you're doing enough.
Correct.
Okay,
Beautiful.
so there's nothing wrong, but you have to, that's why you said surround yourself with people who can see. I mean, I have a clearer picture sometimes of what you're doing than you would because you're not self-obsessed.
Yes.
You see, we were also from a generation which didn't know the meaning of self-love.
Correct. Yeah, so exactly what you're saying. Give yourself self-love and pat yourself on the back.
Just because you've done things for yourself also along the way doesn't make you selfish.
Fantastic. And I will like to end this phenomenal podcast series with a quote by Louise Hay. Wake up in the morning, every morning, look at the mirror and say, hey, you beautiful. Hey, you fabulous. Hey, you superstar, you. And let that be the narrative of your life.
I completely agree with you. Thank you so much, Neeva.
Thank
really
you,
enjoyed having a cup of coffee with you.
Yes, many coffees.
And I'm sure
many conversations.
I wish you the best. Sounds so interesting.
Thank you. So we want to energize all these talented youngsters out there.
It's going to be a fabulous
come in
success.
And make it in life.
It's going to be a fabulous success. Looking forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
And having many more talk shows with you.
Thank you. I look forward to that, Preeti. Lots of love and God bless you.